Is South Africa's electoral system in need of reform? Well, the Constitutional Court has mandated that Parliament has up to 2 years to reform the system to allow independent candidates to run for Parliament. Joining me today is Marius Roodt of the Institute of Race Relations to discuss this topic. Marius, welcome to the CRA channel.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
So now, Marius, you've just written a report detailing the problems in the existing proportional representation system and offering a couple of alternatives and a pathway for reform. Could you start us off with a bit of background information on this Constitutional Court judgment, how it came about, and also what existing problems there are in the PR system?
It actually goes back further than this Constitutional Court judgment. Mogoeng, Chief Justice, said in 2018, we already need to look at reforming our system to let independent candidates run. And then in April last year, just a month before the last general election, a group of people called the New Nation Movement were joined by a woman named Chantal Ravel, who was claimed to be a Khoisan princess or Khoisan royalty. And she said she wanted to run as an independent candidate in the upcoming elections. But this wasn't possible in our system, where you have to be a member of a political party to stand for Parliament. That's because of our proportional representation list system, where voters only vote for a party. They can't vote for a candidate. So the court application was dismissed, but one of the main reasons was because the judge said there wasn't enough time to reform the electoral system with only a month before the next general election. But this group, the New Nation Movement and Chantal Ravel, went to took it on appeal to the Constitutional Court, and they've had a favorable finding for them. And the judge who heard it said gave Parliament 2 years to amend the Electoral Act to allow independent candidates to be able to run. One of his main reasons for saying that was, just as we have the right to freedom of association in South Africa, we also have the right to freedom to not associate with people you don't want to associate with. So the logic was people should be allowed to stand for Parliament if they so wish and not be linked to a political party. So the judge gave Parliament, as I say, 2 years to amend the Electoral Act, and that was, I think, in June or July this year. So we've basically got till middle of 2022 to amend the Electoral Act, and that should be, so by 2024, we'll have a new electoral system for national and provincial elections in South Africa.
Now, Marius, in the report, which we'll link to in the description below, you outline two possible alternatives in terms of reforming the electoral system. Could you provide some detail on that?
Yeah, so most of the heavy lifting on this has been done, to be honest. Two of our proposals is, the first is from the Van Zyl-Slabbert Commission. Electoral reform has actually been a topic in South Africa for some time. And back in 2002, then President Thabo Mbeki appointed the late Frederick Van Zyl-Slabbert to head a commission to look into new electoral system. One of the proposals they came up with was a multi-member constituency system with an element of proportionality. So what they suggested was splitting South Africa up into 69 constituencies. These would be multi-member constituencies with each between 3 and 7 representatives for each constituency. And then this would come to 300 MPs would be selected from constituencies, and there'd be another 100 MPs from a parallel list to ensure proportionality. Because that is actually one of the only requirement in the constitution for our electoral system, is that it has to be broadly proportional. So that's as I say, most of the heavy lifting's been done. That commission came up with already proposed constituencies, a number of representatives that would come from each constituency and so on. So for example, Ekurhuleni would be divided into, that's obviously one of our major metros, they would be divided into 4 constituencies. Each of those constituencies would return 3 representatives to Parliament. So you'd have, 12 representatives from Ekurhuleni altogether. And then a smaller place, for example, the Southern Free State, which would include Bloemfontein, they would have 7 representatives for the entire Southern Free State. It'd also be linked to population size and so on. So that's a system I think that would work well. It would continue to have your proportionality, which is important, and would have a link between communities and a representative in Parliament, which is one of the biggest failings of our current system. Our second proposal is to simply scale up the system we use at municipal level. What we do at municipal level is each geographical entities, say, for example, Johannesburg. Joburg is split into 135 single-member wards. So there, people go vote and they select a candidate from the various parties or an independent to represent them on the city council. But at the same time, there's another also 135 seats to ensure proportionality as well. So you same thing, you'll have a link between a geographical area and a representative, but you'll also have the proportionality. So for example, if a party gets 40% of the votes in a particular area, they'll get 40% of the seats. So we've suggested that we can simply scale that up to a national level. We'd have, for example, perhaps 200 MPs representing geographical areas and another 200 MPs to ensure proportionality. It's actually quite a common system around the world. It's used in Lesotho, for example. It's used in Germany. It's used in New Zealand, and it works quite well in those countries. So that's those are the two proposals. We looked at a number of other systems, but decided not to. That they probably wouldn't be suitable for South Africa for whatever the reason may be. But those are the two proposals we've come forward with, and we'll have to have some kind of element of a mixed constituency and proportional representation system. The only way you can allow independence to run is have some element of a constituency system. And as I say, the Constitution says that any electoral system used in South Africa has to have an element of broad proportionality. So, for example, the first past the post or Westminster system wouldn't be suitable for South Africa. It often leads to electoral outcomes that don't reflect the will of the voters. And I mean, as a cautionary tale in South Africa, in 1948, the United Party won nearly 50% of the vote, but won significantly fewer seats in parliament than the National Party. And we all know what happened in 1948 and implementation of apartheid and so on. So that's one system that wouldn't work. And we looked at a number of other systems, but decided against recommending them for reasons of they could be quite complicated and probably wouldn't be suitable for South Africa.
So now, Marius, obviously one of the shortcomings of the PR system is that it gives a lot of power to party bosses. It means that constituents are disconnected from their representatives. So I think some of your proposals here make a lot of sense. But what do you think are the prospects for these changes going through? It seems that the ANC has been very hostile to the idea of electoral reform in the recent past.
Well, we saw recently a National Working Committee of the ANC in July, I think it was this year, actually said they propose, they support the proposals for electoral reform. So, and as I say, I think the Constitutional Court has now said that electoral reform has to happen. So no matter what the ANC would like to do, I think it's an inevitability. So it's something that is going to happen. It just depends what kind of system gets implemented. And I think this will be good for South Africa. Obviously, this is not going to be some kind of silver bullet for accountability in South Africa, but I think it'll go quite a long way to ensuring that communities feel that they are heard and that their concerns can be heard in Parliament. One of the problems we have seen is that that voter turnout is declining in every single election. I mean, for example, in this last election, we had I think only 65% of registered voters turned out. That was the lowest ever in a post-apartheid election. And if we look at, I don't know the exact number, but of all people who are actually eligible to vote, so that's all South Africans over the age of 18, we only had about I think it was actually under 50% of people who actually turned out to go to the ballot box. So this obviously also has implications for social stability and cohesion. If people aren't turning out at the ballot box, it can be a problem. They might not feel that they're represented, even though they're allowed to go vote. They just don't feel that there's any point to it. And we've seen that in South Africa. Many people feel that the only way that they can feel that they can be heard or the government will be listening to them is through protests, which are often violent.
Well, Marius, hopefully these changes can instill a bit more accountability and a bit more direct contact between citizens and politicians. That's all we have time for today. I just wanted to say thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your perspective with us. Thanks,
David. Thanks for having me.
If you like this video, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Do check out the 30-day free trial to the Center for Risk Analysis. There's a link in the description below. Until next time, take care.